Yes, Dharmil, you want to say something?
Sir, I'll just screen share. I've emailed you both the sheets.
Perfect. Chalo, thanks.
So we'll go with the first come first serve basis or the colored one with the limit.
यार देखो भाई, कलर्ड वन विद द लिमिट, बिकॉज फर्स्ट कम फर्स्ट सर्व में तो ऐसा भी होगा ना कि एक ही मिनिस्ट्री को तीन तीन क्वेश्चंस भी होंगे, राइट, कंसेक्यूटिवली.
Yes.
तो वील टेक वन क्वेश्चन पर मिनिस्ट्री फर्स्ट, उसके बाद इफ वी हैव सम टाइम रिमेनिंग ओनली देन वील एंटरटेन अ सेकंड क्वेश्चन फॉर द मिनिस्ट्री.
All right.
चलो ठीक.
So due to some technical nuance, I won't be able to screen share right now. So I think Anushka, if you could screen share, since I'm not the co-host yet.
What do you want me to put on the screen? The question?
Yeah, the max 2 limit with the yellow and blue.
Just share me the doc.
Yeah, it's the same doc. Same doc, the second sheet.
Just a minute. Can you see the screen?
Not.
No, I'm not able to do that yet.
No.
I
Can
can
you
do that now.
see my screen? I've shared my screen.
Yes, it's visible now. Thank you. ठीक है. So we know what the first question is, and that is to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So do we have the Minister of Commerce and Industry or anyone representing the ministry here?
Oh, yes, so.
Okay. Please
So
read
I
the question
have
and answer it.
sir, I have a question regarding this. Since the Excel's file which was submitted earlier, I was preparing in a chronological order.
Okay.
So I started with the corporate affairs ka question, which was shared by the scribe, I guess, on the group itself. Would it be possible for wait? Okay, all right. So I can answer this question. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry, sir. I'll answer this particular question. I've prepared. Yes. So can I start?
Please.
Thank you, Sharad Pawar ji, इस particular question के लिए. Sharad Pawar ji, you need to understand that we mean that हमारी country needs to calibrate its supply schedules to other countries, although it has not proposed a full ban on exports at this time for the vaccines. अब जैसा कि Global Vaccine Alliance (Gavi), which runs the COVAX program authorized by the World Health Organization, Indian vaccine supplies to lower income countries are being delayed as the government of India battles a new wave of COVID-19 infections. I hope you are aware of the second wave, which is causing ruckus in the entire country, sir. Sharad Pawar ji, you must understand that India ने already 75 countries worldwide को vaccine supply किए हैं, और no other country has supplied the world with as many doses as India has. Now, talking about the domestic storage of the vaccine, Sharad Pawar ji, you must understand that right now we have delayed the exports. We have not banned the exports, but we have delayed. Currently, 6 domestic companies are working to develop or manufacture a COVID vaccine. Abhi recently, Serum Institute of India, which is working in collaboration with our government, had announced that it will increase its output by 67% to 100 million doses a month from May itself. Now, if you're talking about this aspect, Serum Institute of India is producing 5,000 vaccines per minute. अब ये जो vaccine है, इसका storage was slightly an issue. However, our government is tackling that as well. The vaccine can be easily administered in existing healthcare systems stored at fridge temperature from 2 to 8 degrees Celsius and distributed using existing logistics. You must understand कि cold chain logistics जो अभी available हैं, which includes cold storage facilities that store the products, waiting to be transported, cooling systems हो गए, gel packs हो गए for the medical and pharmaceuticals shipments. तो इन सब के लिए existing cold chain enterprises हैं जिनको हमने allocate किया है specific resources in their network, जो last mile connectivity में help करेंगे and slight minor redesign से हम उनको एक designated storage space दे सकते हैं and transport load for this particular purpose can be done. Right now, our government ने जितने भी cold chain owners से बात की है, we have spoken to them and they are willing to contribute space and assets towards this. Now, talking about the second question, is it feasible for us to take the light of the problem of unregulated emissions, which is furthering the process of climate change? So you must understand that yes, it is feasible to consider the problem of unregulated emissions, and our government will take inspiration from the Delhi government on its campaign Yudh Pradushan Ke Virudh, the war against pollution, which it had launched as an intensive anti-dust drive campaign, installation of anti-smoke guns, and an action plan for the hotspots in Delhi. We shall try to inculcate the similar practices all over the country. Now, inspection teams will visit the construction sites, levy heavy fines if they are found to be violating anti-pollution guidelines, which include such rules as covering trucks that carry construction material, protective gear for workers. I think that's that, and that would be a sufficient answer for your question, sir.
I cannot see the questions now. Has the, Anushka, have you stopped sharing your screen?
Yes, sir. Just following.
Anushka, I'll just share if possible.
Yeah, it's here.
We can see it now. Perfect. The next question is regarding Ministry of Consumer Affairs. So if the concerned minister is present, or anyone representing the ministry, please answer this question.
So the Minister of Consumer Affairs is again Piyush Goyal itself.
Chalo, go ahead.
But right now in the chronological order, as I had explained before, so could it be possible that we could tackle the Ministry of Railways ka question, which was there in the list, because it was second according to the order of precedence, which was if it would be allowed by the EV board. So
Nee, matlab, are you willing to answer this question now, or you don't want to answer it now?
so can I answer it like post one question? If it
नीचे
would
scroll
allow?
करो फिर.
Yes, sir.
नहीं तो मैं नहीं बोल रहा. Scribe, can you scroll down? Okay, a little up. Minister of Corporate Affairs.
That's again Piyush Goyal.
You again. तो ये consumer corporate अलग अलग मत लिखो यार. Don't create this confusion. Ministry of Defense.
Sir, I had a point of inquiry.
नहीं, what is your concern? बोलो. We don't have a point of inquiry, but what is your concern?
All right. So my concern is that since these particular questions have been skipped for me, like, can I answer to them post the Ministry of Defense or the post Ministry of Environment questions?
We'll let you know, no problem. Don't worry.
Great. Thank you so much.
Ministry of Defense. Do we have someone from the Ministry of Defense? कोई भी नहीं है. ठीक है. Minister of Environment.
So can the inquiry, can the Minister of Corporate Affairs reply on the behalf of the Ministry of Defense out here?
No. नीचे जाओ. Do we have anyone representing the Ministry of Environment? चलो कोई बात नहीं, थोड़ा नीचे जाओ। मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स, है कोई कि नहीं है? नहीं है, रुक जाओ। मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस,
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there.
ठीक है। कैन यू रीड दिस क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर इट?
Yeah, I'll try. Okay. Um, will the Minister of Finance be pleased to state the number of corporate houses identified with financial irregularities in the year 2019, 2020 to 2021? Now, after receiving a number of complaints from various banks alleging cheating, diversion of funds, and submission of fake and false documents by different defaulting firms while obtaining loans and credit amenities, we have acknowledged some scams under the careful ombudsman, like the vanishing companies of 1998, Ketan Parag scam, Satyam scam, 210 alleged housing loan scam, Punjab National Bank scam, Union Bank of India, the government and the government of India is committed to zero tolerance against corruption and has taken several measures to combat corruption in the to improve probity and accountability of government institutions. Uh, so there are some steps initiated by the Ministry of Finance. Banks should ensure that there are adequate systems and controls in place to identify potential risks and that they are being followed at all relevant branches. SWIFT CBS linking must be made mandatory for all leaves. Confirmations of lending foreign branches must be done for each of the leaves. All internal and external audits must be compelled on time at branch level. The audit reports should be shared with the government's auditors and examined by the RBI, which will conduct a separate audit every year. The PNB fraud case, the bank has told the finance minister that the last audit by RBI was done. Training of bank staff should be undertaken for skill upgradation and creating awareness about the possible modes of banking fraud. Use of technology for preventing fraud should be encouraged within banking ecosystem. New technology like blockchain can be used to record all banking transactions. Some experts have said that the blockchain could have detected the first of the series of frauds in PNEB, and once a fraud is detected, it should be immediately flagged by the bank and concerned agencies roped in the probe. Thank you.
चलो ठीक है, कैन यू स्क्रॉल डाउन? Do we have anyone from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs? कोई कुछ बोल रहा है?
So that should be Srimati Sitaraman, ma'am.
नहीं यार, देखो कोई भी मिनिस्ट्री से हो, नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम, इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ निर्मला सीतारमन, मिस्टर पीपी चौधरी, कोई है तो दो, आई गेस बोथ ऑफ देम आर इलेक्टेड टू द लोअर हाउस ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट, बट अगर कोई है तो, नहीं है तो नो प्रॉब्लम एट ऑल। I guess we have Shri Nirmala Sitaraman, right?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes, sir.
So, if the scribe could scroll up, madam, we do have some questions concerning, the ministry that you represent. So, will you be kind enough to answer those questions? One as of now, the other question we can take later.
Can I answer this later?
चलो ठीक है, नीचे जाओ। Did you get the the list on time? ये जो questions की list है, we had it uploaded at around 10:30, right? So Miss Sitaraman, were you there in the discussion?
Yes, I'm there. Actually, I'm sick right now, so I'm getting nauseous. So I didn't check on time. Really sorry for that.
नीचे जाओ. Do we have anyone representing Ministry of Health and Family?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please read the question and answer it.
Sir, actually, the first question, it was an unstart question, I think.
Okay, so do you have a starred question to answer? Because मुझे तो सारे starred ही दिख रहे हैं यहाँ पे.
I'll answer them, sir. I have the answers
Yeah,
prepared.
just answer one question first. The
Okay.
other we'll take later.
So the total number of super specialist doctors in All India Institute of Medical Sciences AIMS. So there are more than 800 doctors, including faculty members and residents, and 4,000 nurses in AIMS right now. And B part is whether the doctors have moved towards the private hospitals after leaving the AIMS in 3 years. If so, the total number of such doctors. So yes, unfortunately, due to some reasons like poor hygiene, some doctors left the AIMS Institute, and we are working on making the working conditions for them better. The third is the levels at which the efforts are being made by government to retain these doctors at AIMS. For increasing MBBS seats across the medical colleges, the government has enhanced the maximum intake capacity at MBBS level from 150 to 200. Relaxation in the norms for setting up of medical college in terms of the requirement of land, faculty, staff, bed, and other infrastructure has also been done. And there are some more parts. Shall I answer them also?
To answer it, Mr. Rakesh Sinha, sir, you are not supposed to include two different aspects in a same question, and that too with 6 subcategories of the question, right? It is a too long question.
So just a clarification, sir. These questions have been clubbed. The minister had presented them as two separate questions. If the numericals can be seen, it's ABC and ABC. So these were two separate questions that the minister had submitted. They've been clubbed.
Okay, चलो ठीक है. But as of now, we can't take the second part, ठीक है? All right.
However, all the parliamentarians are requested to refer to the yellow questions first, all right, the one of which maybe start, all right. Only then we will move on to the questions which are not highlighted.
ठीक है. Can you scroll down? ठीक है. Do we have someone from the Ministry of Home Affairs? कोई है कि नहीं है? और Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, chalo.
Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Okay, so this question was asked by Rakesh Sinha. It is a start question. First of all, I would like to read the question for the Parliament. Will the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs be pleased to state the number of slum households in 4 metropolitan cities, Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, and Chennai? The comprehensive plan to facilitate the minimum requirement based on human dignity for these slum dwellers, who could also be called as urban poor. Whether the ministry has been preparing to establish a separate wing to deal with the socio-economic problem of such urban affairs, urban poor, slum dwellers, and if so, the time frame to establish the same. To answer this question, I would like to start. Slum households account for a huge number of population in our country, and to tackle the following situation and to provide these slum households with good housing facilities, programs like Smart City Mission and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban have been launched. Talking about the Small City Mission, since the launch of mission 5,151 projects worth more than rupees 2 lakh crore are at various stages of implementation in the 100 cities in which slum households are also given major considerations. On 31st of January 2020, an economic survey was published by Economic Times which stated the following points. On Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana urban program, the survey said that the scheme was launched in June 2015 to provide Pakka house with basic amenities to all eligible urban poor. The states and union territories were mandated to conduct demand survey to estimate the housing demand in their respective cities and towns. So far, a validated demand of 1.12 crore houses has been registered, it said, stating that Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban is one of the largest housing schemes of the world, covering complete urban India. The survey said the scheme is rapidly moving towards achieving the vision for providing a Pakka house to every household by 2022. Out of 1.03 crore houses approved, 60 lakh have been grounded for construction, and of which 32 lakh houses have been completed and delivered, it said. The investment made under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban not only provides Pakka houses to eligible families to achieve the goal of housing for all, but also triggers multiplier effect of the overall economy, the survey said. Over and above the year-on-year budgetary provision, a separate mechanism through creation of national urban housing funds has been approved by Union Cabinet to mobilize resources through extra budgetary resources to the tune of rupees 60,000 crore for funding Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. Coming to your point where you ask that whether the ministry has been preparing to establish a separate wing to deal with the socio-economic problems of such urban poor. So here I would like to mention that all the programs which the ministry is running, may it be Smart City Mission or Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, all these programs focuses on uplifting the standard of living of such urban poor. All what our ministry is implementing is only and only for citizens' benefit, because we believe in working for people. Thank you.
चलो ठीक है, thank you. Can we scroll down? Please stop. I guess we can take a question for the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. So anyone representing the ministry, please feel free to read the question and answer it. In case we don't have anyone representing the concerned ministry, anyone who represents the Ministry of Minority Affairs, the concerned minister, please read the question and answer it.
Yeah, actually, I missed the question. Can you give me some time? I'll get back to you.
Which ministry do you represent, sir?
Minority Affairs.
Okay, please take your time, read the question. In the meanwhile, do we have anyone representing the Ministry of Railways?
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay. Will you be kind enough to read the question and answer it?
Sure, Chairperson. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
As per the question which was given to me by Rakesh Sinha, it's a starred question. I would be reading the question for the benefit of the committee. Will the Minister of Railways be pleased to state the details of the railway land illegally occupied by unscrupulous elements, cost of land occupied illegally, and measures being taken by the government to take back possession of such land thereof? Mr. Rakesh Sinha, you must understand that certain land which has been encroached by these elements has to be tackled in multiple ways, in multiple standards and techniques. Initially, our first technique is approaching them with the Railway Protection Force, which is the RPF, along with our own officials, who actually go there to actually remove the temporary nature of soft encroachments in the shape of jhuggis, jhopris, and squatters. The same are removed in consultation and the assistance of the Railway Protection Force and local civil authorities. However, for old encroachments, where the party is not amenable to persuasion, where they don't listen to our authorities, action has to be taken under public premises, eviction of unauthorized occupants, as per the Act 1971, PPE Act 1971, as amended from time to time. An actual eviction of the unauthorized occupants is carried out with assistance of the state government and police. You must understand that according to the census, which was done on 31st of March, out of 4.78 lakh hectare land available with the Indian Railways, approximately 821.46 hectare land, which is 0.17%, is under encroachment. The railways do not maintain market price of the land as governed by various factors and keeps on fluctuating. Mr. Rakesh Sinha, you must understand that the price of the land is not fixed. So we can't come up with a definite value. There could be a certain day where the price of the land could surge up too high or it could fall down too low. So indirectly, it would affect our government. It would affect the railways altogether. So we are not putting a price tag on it. However, you must understand that 0.17% of the land, which is 821.46 hectares, is also too much. And our government, in collaboration with the state, is continuously trying to get rid of the encroachments. Thank you, sir. I hope all my answers would have been sufficient enough.
Even if they weren't, Mr. Rakesh Sinha knows what to do, so you don't have to.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll scroll a little up. And I guess, there was a minister who promised the entire nation that he'll come with a reply. So we'll ask him. I guess it was the Minister of Information and Broadcasting, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so will you be kind enough to read the question and answer it?
So it was
the Minister of Minority.
Acha, chalo, theek hai, no problem. Are you prepared with your answer, sir?
No, I'm working on it. Can you give me some more time?
ठीक है, no problem. चलो नीचे जाओ.
Thank you.
Okay. ठीक है. So anyone who represents the Ministry of Science and Technology?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am, will you be kind enough to answer the question?
Yes, just a second.
Question आप सबके लिए पढ़ लीजिए एक बार, उसके बाद please answer it.
Okay, so I will be reading the questions. The tests conducted before administering COVID-19 vaccine on citizens. So health professionals have called for general public to get antibody tests done before and after taking a shot of COVID vaccine, both for research purposes and possibly to help reduce hesitancy among the citizens. Primary differences between vaccines made around the world and in India. So people have been thinking about this, that what is the difference between our vaccine and the one which is available abroad. So the two vaccines have been granted emergency use authorization by the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization in India, which are Covishield and Covaxin, which are made by AstraZeneca's vaccine by Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech Limited. The COVID-19 vaccine introduced in India is as effective as any vaccine developed by other countries. Various phases of vaccine trials are undertaken to ensure its safety and efficacy. Vaccines have similar patent tech, so there is not such any difference, but just the patent technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone who represents the Ministry of Social Justice?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Can you read the question and answer it?
Yeah, sure. So this minister would like to read the question asked by Mr. Rakesh Sinha, and it goes as follows. Will the Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment be pleased to state the assistance provided to SC and ST students across the country for competitive examination during the last 3 years, the names of coaching institutions being run for them, and whether their adute and performance evaluation has been done? So, sir, this minister would like to answer as follows. Under the free coaching scheme of the Department of Social Justice and Empowerment, the government provides free coaching to 4,000 economically disadvantaged SC, STs, and OBC candidates to enable them to appear in competitive examinations such as JE, NEET, CLAT, and even employment related exams. For that, the government spends on an average around 40,000 on each student for the scholarship. The budget for this scheme is around rupees 16 crore. Under the scheme, the state government recommends a coaching institute and then an MOU is signed between them. Following this, the coaching institute is given the mandate to enroll students from SCs, STs, and OBC categories. Indeed, the funds are provided by the central government. This scheme is being implemented through reputed coaching institutes run by center and state government, even union territories, PSUs, and autonomous bodies. But this ministry would definitely agree with the fact that there has been lack of transparency in past years in terms of procedure carried out for the same. And according to the survey carried out in 2019 by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, has found that coaching institutes receiving centers fund have not passed on benefit to all students. Hence, government issues notice to 36 institutes, having said that the center government is working over it, and more specifically, this ministry is trying to implement certain procedural schemes that would improve the transparency in such sensitive matter. Would like to conclude by stating that center asks for a trusted support from the state government who are acting as a middleman in such a situation, would certainly not accept any kind of misuse and fraud in disbursing the funds meant for SC and ST students. Thank you so much. I hope I answered your question, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman, sir, I had a quick query, if permitted.
Please let me know your name and your query.
Sir, Rakesh Sinha, sir.
Haan ji,
Considering we have reached the end of the asked questions, there was a targeted question towards the Ministry of Home Affairs in the beginning, which wasn't answered. So, being a member of the Parliamentary Committee of Home Affairs, if Rakesh Sinha could be allowed to answer to the question, because it was a pertinent query, if allowed by the Executive Board.
We'll see to that. Thank you.
Right, sir.
Just
In the capacity of being Minister of State, will I be allowed to supplement the previous answer?
you are asking about the supplementary question provision, right?
No, actually, Mr. Gehlot already answered the question. So can I just add something more to it?
No, yaar. Mr. Gehlot has given a very good answer. Please, rely on his ability and his subjective knowledge and his expertise. I'm really happy with the answer that I got, and I hope that you feel the same way. Thank you. ठीक है, तो we'll go up.
All right. Thank you.
हाँ. So we had one question, I guess, to the Ministry of Home Affairs or Minority Affairs?
Minority affairs.
Minority Affairs, right? So will you be kind enough to answer it now?
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I couldn't come up with an answer.
No problem.
So we also had one for Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman was answered.
ठीक है, तो can you please take everyone to that question? देखो, we've had one starred question for every ministry, right? Every possible ministry. So obviously, we have a sufficient time to, entertain another starred question one by one for every ministry to whom the question has been referred to. So we'll stick to the basic rule and go by that. Okay. So, any questions?
Yes. So one question was also missed for the Ministry of Commerce.
Ministry of Commerce.
Yeah.
But
this is the question prior to corporate affairs, sir.
ठीक है, तो is someone representing the Ministry of Commerce available?
Yes, sir. Piyush Goyal.
Yeah, the problem with you is, sir, that almost every ministry is with you. तो
I mean, so the Minister of yes, sir.
no problem यार, देखो, not a problem, but I would really appreciate if the other people who are who are representing a certain ministry, they haven't answered the question, right? They get an opportunity to participate and contribute to the best of their ability and knowledge. So let's keep it that way. If we are running short of participation, obviously sir, we'll get to you.
Great, thank you so much, sir.
चलो जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। ठीक है, तो ऊपर जाओ थोड़ा सा।
Sir, I have one question. Actually, that kind of.
हाँ बोलो।
सर एक्चुअली ये होता तो नहीं है, बट क्योंकि पार्टिसिपेशन कम है, तो क्या प्राइवेट मेंबर्स आंसर कर सकते हैं किसी क्वेश्चन को?
नहीं यार, मैं ये तो नहीं अलाउ कर सकता।
ओके,
राइट, मतलब आई वुड रियली अप्रिशिएट इफ यू कुड द प्रिंसिपल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दैट यू हैव एज अ प्राइवेट मेंबर, एंड दैट इज टू आस्क क्वेश्चंस। ठीक है ना? वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ पार्टिसिपेशन, आई कैन अश्योर यू, both qualitatively and quantitatively, and let's go by that.
ओके
चलो, thank you. Now can you scroll a little up? ठीक है, तो हम एकदम the list of questions that we have for today, possibly for tomorrow as well, we'll go by that only. तो हम सबसे पहले चले जाते हैं right at the top. ठीक है, तो थोड़ा सा ऊपर और जाना, अनुष्का।
So, now that we have exhausted one question per ministry,
correct.
We may take that in the chronological order as per the original sheet, or we can
no
go
problem.
by 2 questions per ministry.
मतलब देखो, the idea is कि एक क्वेश्चन पर मिनिस्ट्री हो चुका है, तो we can entertain second question per ministry. ठीक है, तो हमें वही करना और कुछ नहीं करना। चलो।
So the first question is this one, Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
कोई है मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉमर्स एंड इंडस्ट्री से?
Yes,
अपार्ट फ्रॉम पीयूष गोयल? अच्छा, चलो ठीक है यार। अब देखो, देयर इज नथिंग दैट कैन बी डन, यू प्लीज आंसर द क्वेश्चन फॉर द कंसर्न मिनिस्ट्री।
Great, thank you so much, sir.
ठीक।
This question was raised for the Ministry of Commerce and Industry by Mr. Sharad Pawar. I'm so sorry. This question was raised to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, sir, because the Commerce and Industry was already exhausted, Chair. This is the blue question, Chair. So, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs.
Go ahead.
Yes, Chair. So, Mr. Rakesh Sinha had raised a start question, and I would be reading the question for the benefit of the committee. Will the Minister of Commerce Affairs be pleased to state, Consumer Affairs be pleased to state the number of consumer courts in the country and the number of cases which have been disposed of the last 5 years, the number of cases which have been filed for violation of consumer interest, the number of persons who are penalized for violating the norm during the last 5 years year-wise, and the reasons for the low rate of disposal of such cases. So now, since answering each particular question would take a lot of time, I would like to summarize the entire data into one. Mr. Rakesh Sinha, you must understand that the Companies Act of 1956 had provided a legal basis for the various corporate governance norms that are considered essential for the proper corporate operation, and protecting the rights of stakeholders. Violations of such norms are defined as offenses with associated penalties. At present, the process of prosecution for offenses faces many delays. We understand that. Under the present law, all lapses, howsoever trivial, are required to be tried by the trial court as criminal offenses. Delays are also attributable to the procedural aspect required to be followed to bring the offender to book under Companies Act 1956, as most of the violations are of procedural nature. Now, talking about the entire analysis of it, the number of cases which have been filed since inception is 1,37,516, which was registered by the National Commission, 9,63,825 registered by the State Commission, and 44,94,000 registered by the district forums. So in total, it was around 55 lakh, which were filed since inception. The number of cases disposed of since inception, now I'll give you the total number, and for the benefit of the committee, I can also share the entire data on the particular group as well. It is 49,80,884, the cases of disposed of since inception, and just give me a second. The number of persons who were violated is already done. And the reasons for the low rate of disposal of such cases, this was already explained. as to it is howsoever trivial the case may be, it is being required to be tried by the trial court as criminal offenses. And delays are also attributable to the procedural aspects, as most of it are of procedural nature. Thank you so much, Chair. I hope my question has satisfied Mr. Rakesh Sinha. And if any other question, you can post it in supplementary form. The second question, will the...
No. Thank you.
So there is, all right, fair enough. Thanks, Chair.
Do we have someone from the Ministry of Environment? Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Corporate Affairs तो हो गया. Ministry of Defense, right? We never had anyone from the Ministry of Defense, right?
Now we can move on to the Ministry of Finance.
ठीक है. Anyone who is representing the Ministry of Finance?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, so can you answer the question?
Before that, can you scroll further? This question is already answered.
Was this one answered?
Yes, this? अच्छा, तो Anushka, sorry. Can the Minister of Finance?
मी घरीच आहे.
Excuse me. It is just a disturbance. Can you answer this question? Yeah. I'll answer.
Please wait.
Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you're audible. You're audible. Go ahead. Yes, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, we're waiting to hear something from you. Are you willing to answer the questions?
Hello.
Yes, you're audible. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, am I audible? Okay, good. Yeah, I'll answer. Do you want me to read the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Will the Minister of Finance be pleased to state if it is true that US put India on the watch list of currency manipulators in 2020? If so, what is the plan of action of the government to remove India from the watch list? First of all, I would like to thank Naresh Kochar for this question, because this is a very important matter to be discussed. The United States has once again included India in its monitoring list of countries with potentially questionable foreign exchange policies and currency manipulation. This comes a year after India was removed from the watch list. The US Treasury Department, a semi-annual foreign exchange report, the US Congress. Based on the central bank's intervention data, India's net purchases of foreign exchange accelerated notably the second half of 2019. Following sales during the initial onset of the pandemic, India sustained net purchases for much of the first half of 2020, which pushed net purchases of foreign exchange to $64 billion, or 2.4% of GDP over the 4 quarters to June 2020. Treasury encourages the authorities to limit foreign exchange intervention to periods of excessive volatility while allowing the rupee to adjust based on economic fundamentals. By further opening the economy to foreign investors, India can also support economic recovery and bolster long-term growth. This can be done by the amalgamation of two international bodies that will have jurisdiction over currency manipulation. Currently exists the IMF and WTO. However, neither of these bodies are currently constituted adequate. The IMF lacks any viable enforcement mechanism, and the WTO, while it does have different complaint mechanisms, fails to use them effectively because these two bodies are continually mentioned as possible solutions for currency manipulation. Two international organizations with large memberships, the WTO and IMF, regulate interstate trade and monetary interaction. The IMF seemingly has a stronger jurisdictional basis for policing exchange rates, but lacks meaningful enforcement capabilities. The WTO has some enforcement capability, but has jurisdictional hurdles. Cooperation between two organizations will solve these major issues, but is unlikely for a number of reasons. Perhaps the best way to address this issue is on international scale would be a form of new international organization. Thank you. I'm done.
So next we can take housing affairs. Housing and urban affairs.
Anyone representing the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs?
Yes, sir.
Chalo, go ahead.
So should I answer the question written in white or written in yellow?
In yellow.
Okay. So the question has been asked by Naresh Gujral, Mr. Naresh Gujral, and I would like to answer. First of all, I'll read the question for the Parliament. Will the Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs be pleased to state the current progress of Smart City Mission SCM project, the timeline for the implementation of the same along with its challenges, the status of funds allocated and utilized till date, whether more citizens are being considered under this project, if so, the details thereof. Okay, so SCM started on 25th of June 2015, has been one of the most insightful and visionary mission of our ministry so far. Hereby, I would like to state the progress made by the mission. The 100 cities selected for the mission have incorporated special purpose vehicles, SPVs, city level advisory forums, and appointed projects management consultants. Since one of the objectives of this mission was to provide clean environment to the citizen of these cities, and looking at the top cleanest cities under Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, we can make out that we are moving in the right direction. Even 53 out of 100 cities mentioned in the mission have command control center established, which is helping in huge ways to control crime against women. Talking about the financing of the mission, the sources of income, some of the sources of income are property tax, professional tax, entertainment tax, National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, public-private partnership, PPP, municipal bonds, etc. Talking about numbers, central government proposed to give financial support to the mission to the extent of 48,000 crore over 5 years. That is on an average rupees 100 crore per city per year. An equal amount on a matching basis will have to be contributed by state ULB. Therefore, nearly rupees 1 lakh crore of government ULB funds will be available for smart city development. The distribution of funds under the scheme will be as follows: 93% will be project funds, 5% administrative and office expenses, funds for state ULB, towards preparation of SCPs and PMCs, pilot studies connected to area-based development and generation of smart solutions, capacity building as approved in challenge, and online services. 2%, the last 2%, ANOE funds and mission directorate and connected activity structure, research, pilot studies, capacity building, and concurrent evaluation. Thank you. I think I have answered the questions with all my points.
So next we can move to Ministry of Railways. Why was that also happens to be Piyush Goyal? The second question.
Yes, sir. Give me a second, sir.
Ishan sir, at your discretion.
नहीं यार ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Whatever you've taken a decision, I agree to that. No problem. ठीक है.
Chair, for the question, won't the question which was given above will be given weightage?
कौन सा वाला?
It was posed by Mr. Naresh Gujral.
ठीक है, देखो दोनों में से आपको जो क्वेश्चन आंसर करना है वो आंसर करो.
Okay, so it's Chair, it's question number 53. If you could scroll up.
Do answer the question in yellow, if possible.
The question in yellow. Give me a second, Chair. Let me
either of them.
Oh yeah, just give me a second, Chair. All right, the minister would be ready to answer this question. This question was posed by Madam Malika Arjun Kharjire. It was a start question posed to the Ministry of Railways. The question for the benefit of the entire committee. It has been 2 years since the Palwana attack. Questionable official lapses on the law enforcement and intelligence levels are yet to be addressed. Why, Chair, if it would be possible, could you scroll slightly towards the right? Why haven't they been probed yet? And did the ruling party use the tragedy to unashamedly reap electoral advantage? All right. Thank you so much, madam, for this question. By raising this particular issue in the committee, you have violated certain rights out here by claiming that our ruling party has used this as electoral advantage. The Pulwama attack, this was an attack which was condemned by the entire country, including the opposition as well as the treasury benches, the entire committee, all the sabhas, all the civilians who were present. You must understand that by using it as an electoral advantage, we won't gain anything. By responding to the Pulwama attack, surgical strikes were used, or the violators were rightfully punished, and certain steps were taken by the Indian Army, which works in collaboration with the Ministry of Defense. So by posing this question to the Minister of Railways, I would like to answer in a way that we have tried to increase security, the deployment of railway protection forces on the platforms, rapid checking, a continuous monitoring of every platform to make sure that no suspicious activity is noticed. Other than that, we have bomb disposal squads which are deployed continuously for the protection of the civilians. Other than that, as the Minister of Railways, cannot comment on certain developments which were made by the Ministry of Defense. And this question should have been rightfully posed to the Minister of Defense, as he would be more capable of explaining it in further detail. Thank you.
All right, the next question.
So with this, we have exhausted. However, if there is the Ministry of Home Affairs or representative for it, have been asked in the chat box, they would wish to answer the question.
Yes, sir. So the question is asked by Anand Sharma, sir, and the question is, will the Ministry of Home Affairs be pleased to state why does the PM CARES Fund not come under the purview of the RTI Act, even after it is fulfilling all the necessary conditions of being public authority for the same? Thank you, sir. So I'll answer the first question first for the benefit of the parliamentarians and the board. So this was a similar question that was asked by retired Commodore Lokesh Batra. And the simple answer that the government could give is that the funds that are collected from the funds that are collected for the PM CARES fund are done from private sources, are sourced from private sources. So even if you question the nature of the PM CARES funds particularly, we have made it very clear that it is a registered public trust, and thus the PM CARES Foundation is a public body, whereas the funds that it collects, or the information of these funds is not open for scrutiny or does not fall under the purview of the RTI, because these are collected from private sources. That includes citizens, that includes PSUs, and they wouldn't want their identity to be revealed. So with the particular functioning of the PM CARES fund, it is private, but whereas the body is registered as a trust. So I hope I've answered the question for the benefit of Mr. Anand Sharma and the parliamentarians. And the second question is, why was there a need of the PM CARES fund in the first place, given the PMNRF with similar objectives exist already? I don't think that it existed with similar objectives, because the PM CARES fund, if remembered by the parliamentarians and the ruling party, of course, was something that was introduced when the COVID-19 became a rampant disease, and we had to continue other economic activities and provide for our citizens even during that time. So an alternate source of funding was envisioned by the Honorable Prime Minister, whereby money was supposed to be channeled for essentially conducting COVID operations. And being somebody from the ruling party, I am very proud to say that the COVID operations have been conducted very successfully in our country. And today we are an example for global diplomacy of vaccine, and also in various other aspects of the pandemic. So I don't think that it was conducted with similar objectives, but I hope I've clarified the difference to Anand Sharma ji and the rest of the parliamentarians. Thank you very much.
चलो ठीक है यार, we'll take one final question. धर्मिल देखो कौन सा क्वेश्चन लेना.
So with that, we have set the 2 questions. So now perhaps we can revert to the original sheet in the first tab, which has all the questions in a first come first serve basis.
ठीक है, no problem.
So
and one more thing यार, देखो वैसे भी अब 0R को 5 ही मिनट बचे हैं, तो meanwhile please go through the the 0R notices. I guess they are uploaded on the WhatsApp group, right? So I'll let you know what topics we'll take, but please go through them at least.
So I was facing a network lag. Could you please repeat the last instruction?
I just said that we will begin with the 0R in the next 4 minutes. धर्मिल, I just had one question. ये जो 0R के नोटिसेज हैं, ये उसी ऑर्डर में है जिस ऑर्डर में हमें रिसीव हुए हैं?
Yes sir.
ठीक है यार, देखो बट द प्रॉब्लम इज कि एक भी टॉपिक में आई डोंट सी द टोटल टाइम लिमिट, राइट? एंड द मैक्सिमम दैट आई कैन केटर फॉर वन टॉपिक इज 30 मिनट्स, राइट? 30 से कम हो सकता है बट 30 से ज्यादा नहीं हो सकता. तो चलो ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम. जो भी जिस ऑर्डर में क्वेश्चंस सॉरी टॉपिक्स आए हैं, आई विल आस्क द ऑथर ऑफ द टॉपिक टू लेट मी नो व्हाट द टाइम व्हाट टाइम ही इज विलिंग टू कीप. ठीक है, चलो नो प्रॉब्लम. यार देखो, वी ओनली हैव 3 मिनट्स, तो वी वोंट टेक एनी फर्दर क्वेश्चंस फॉर द क्वेश्चन आवर. जो बाकी रिमेनिंग क्वेश्चंस है दैट आर लेफ्ट, we'll take them today. So for tomorrow. So for tomorrow, you don't need to send us any separate questions because the list is already very long, and we've managed to cater only, I guess, 30 to 40% of the questions. So what we'll do is that for tomorrow, we'll take the same set of questions. Okay? So we'll begin with the 0R in 2 minutes, obviously. तो मैं ये बता देता हूँ कि what topics are we going to take. ठीक है? So we'll take the first 2 topics, no problem at all. So is Dr. Manmohan Singh present there?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Manmohan Singh, can you tell me for how many minutes do you want your topic to be discussed in 0R?
So 30 minutes with per speaker time of 2 minutes.
Yeah, per speaker time, so we can't decide. I'm really sorry. Okay. The idea is ki I can recommend ki to the speakers, right, who will be participating in the 0R ki 1-1.5-2 minutes से ज़्यादा मत लेना. Let everyone have the chance to speak. और देखो, the idea of having a 0R for people like us, right, young people who are not parliamentarians obviously, but participating in a youth parliament, is to try to learn how to accommodate each other. ठीक है ना? Because we can't keep a strict individual speaker time limit, right? Because we don't have any such provision. We can only let as a representative from the office of the speaker ki we have this topic for the 0R and it will be accommodated for 30 minutes. ठीक है ना? Because that's what the provision says. So the idea is ki because we would expect you, Dr. Manmohan Singh, to start since you are the author of this proposal. So be crisp, precise, and to the point, right? And the idea is कि जो भी participate करेगा 0 hour में, please try to speak and have that realization that if you want everyone to listen to you when you speak, you should have that audacity in you to listen to everyone when they're speaking, right? So the idea is to accommodate each other to the best of your ability and make it very productive. So ठीक है, it's already 12. We'll start with the 0 hour. Dr. Manmohan Singh, we'll take your topic, the worsening situation of COVID-19 in India. We'll discuss it for 30 minutes. ठीक है ना? We won't let anyone know कि अब तुम्हारी बारी, अब तुम्हारी बारी है. Take this opportunity and take this responsibility कि आप एक दूसरे को accommodate करो, listen to each other, don't create it a fish market and try to make it as productive as possible. ठीक है? All right, you can start.
Manmohan Singh, are you going to start? I think you should start, considering that you are the one who raised the notice.
Yes, sir. Start. Just give me 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
I'll start now. Am I audible?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, you are.
Honorable Chair, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today. So on Tuesday, when India recorded the highest number of vaccinations in a day, the Union Health Secretary said the goal of vaccination was to cut down death in the vulnerable population and to protect the health system. Now, there's no disagreement on that. But suddenly, he framed it as a binary, those who want the vaccine versus those who require the vaccine. He said the aim of vaccination was to vaccinate the latter. I believe now that's bad science and poor policy. The need of the hour is universal vaccination against COVID-19, and walk-in registrations should be allowed for all age groups. The Indian Medical Association has called for universal vaccination. So several CMs have called for universal vaccination. Yet the government says that there is no need for universal vaccination. Rather, it fired off a vitriolic note accusing states of messing up with their COVID management. So what I don't understand is that why is the government so against the universal vaccination? And the reluctance of the center to reimagine the vaccination project is more unfortunate, given that India has the acumen to combine the best of market-based and directed welfare approaches. Sir, our vaccination production capacity is globally recognized. We have substantial experience in inoculation of people against deadly diseases like polio. But sir, my question is, have the policymakers reached out to manufacturers with the right incentives? Why are vaccine stocks suddenly a problem, especially when we are exporting it to the world in large quantities? Why is the Serum Institute of India waiting for the government to respond to its financial request? These questions require urgent answers. Now that just about 6% of the country's population has received one jab of vaccine speaks of the challenges and the incapacities that lie ahead of us. The number of infections is escalating every day because of the unscientific and stubborn stance of this government. Vaccine remains our most potent weapon in our arsenal. It needs to be used effectively with science as the compass and not politics or public relations. Thank you, sir.
I would reply to one of your statements. You said that our government is against giving vaccines to all this. But it is not the case. It's just the case that the people above 45, the people above of age 45 and the frontline workers are given more priority for giving the vaccines, because immunity of the people above 45 is lesser than the one which are in the age group of 18 to 25 or lower. And frontline workers need to get vaccine first so that they can provide service to other citizens as well.
Yeah, ma'am, the question is not only about the immunity also, right? The question is also about the availability of the stock of vaccine. So if you look at states, if you look at the maximum affected states like Maharashtra, there is no stock available. Like literally the vaccine centers have been closed and people have been sent away, right? Now, if you look at our PM, who has been completely running a PR show since the beginning of pandemic, like the Thali banging and the Diya banging, and now he has come up with another PR show, the Tika Utsav, right? Now, the Tika Utsav, according to your party, BJP, is a large-scale vaccine drive. But what sort of large-scale vaccine drive are you committing, considering the fact that there is no vaccine stock in the first place, right? So if there is no vaccine stock in the first place available, how are you going to conduct a large-scale vaccine drive? Now the question is also about proportionality, right? Now if you look at the statistics provided by your own ministry, the health ministry, you can see that the vaccine provided to 3 states, that is Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Rajasthan, have been almost on the same levels, apart from a question of 10,000 or 15,000 vaccines here and there, right? But the question you need to consider here is that Maharashtra almost has double population of that of Gujarat and Rajasthan. So what sort of proportionality and equity are you following here, considering the fact that Maharashtra has a huge, greater population density, large scale population density in the first place, and also around 40 to 50% of the current surge in cases are from Maharashtra. So yeah, I get it, like there should be equality among all the states, but yeah, shouldn't equity be promoted rather than equality, considering the fact that the population density in Maharashtra is very high compared to the other states you have been providing equal amount of vaccines, that is Gujarat and Rajasthan, and B, the more 40 to 50% of surge in cases are from Maharashtra rather than the other states which you have given equal amount of vaccines to. So the question is not only about immunity. Even if you consider, let's even consider, your assumption is right कि 45 above people should को vaccine पहले देना चाहिए. But the point is that even people above 45 you haven't. If you look at documented cases in the last 1 week, if you look at various cases at the vaccine centers, people have legit been sent away from the vaccine centers because there is no stock. So in a case of a second surge, what sort of vaccine disbursement policies or mechanisms is the government following? Could you please get a reply on that? Thank you.
Since Dr.
For
Harshvardhan replied to my speech saying that the priority must be given to elderly people, I would want to ask that 6.5% of the vaccines got wasted till date. What would the ministry comment on that? Like if you're wasting the vaccines, it would be better to allocate it to the people, in that age category rather than just following this very strict
Firstly, with
stance.
pending clarification on what you mean by wastage, you did not give any details or the sources of that. But with reference to your ideal rhetoric of having universal vaccination, while that is nice in a fairy world that Manmohan Singh might be living in, we need to consider the logistical restrictions that we have. We do need to follow a practice of prioritization where we can accommodate all the needs that are strictly required considering the infrastructure that we have. So universal vaccination might sound as a good idea, but practically we are trying to do what's best for the people at the time with the resources that we have.
So JP,
Adding to the point,
I will get back to you with the exact sources and I will get back to this question.
Dr. Manmohan Singh,
Question regarding the universal vaccination. Firstly, there is a difference between vaccinating a polio infected group and a COVID infected group. With respect to polio, you have a particular age group comprising mostly children to vaccinate. And secondly, with respect to COVID, you have a larger base to vaccinate. And why are we not vaccinating everybody? Come on, we need to vaccinate people first who would be in direct contact with the patients who might be infected with COVID. And now that takes us to the health workers. Why vaccinate elderly? Because they have lower immunity. As far as the stocks are concerned, the center has maintained its stance that we are supplying enough stocks. It is states such as Maharashtra, owing to their poor COVID-19 management facility or infrastructure, which has not been able to vaccinate major masses of the country and therefore is facing a second surge.
How are you providing? How is it logical that you are providing the same amount of stock to Maharashtra, which has 2x population to that of Gujarat and Rajasthan, right?
Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, coming to that particular point, he also stated that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is running a PR show with Thali banging, Diya, and a Tia Utsav. Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, first replying to that particular allegation which was made against the Prime Minister of the nation, you must understand that this was just done to boost the morale of the country. We understand this had no implication in dealing with COVID-19, but this had an implication in dealing with improving and boosting the morale of the country due to the second surge. Now coming to the point where you said that certain that the government has made assumptions. That assumptions were made there have been raises unequitable distribution towards particular states. You must understand that this was done. The distribution of vaccines was done in December. It's being done regularly. I understand, but the allocation, it was all decided months prior to this. Even our government, nor any other government in the world had anticipated that the second wave would be has minimized the exports to several other countries. You must also understand that the Serum Institute of India, who you state that lack funds and are working in collaboration with, you must understand that they are working in collaboration with the government. And the reason being, since they are working in collaboration with the government, our government has the right to enforce them to produce more amount of vaccines. You must understand that in the month of May, the vaccine production is going to increase to 100 million doses per month. That's a 67% more increase. And we are also increasing the storage facilities in the country. And we are also distributing, we are forming committees for distribution of vaccines to every other state which is in dire need right now. This was made clear. This particular point was made clearly by the Prime Minister day before yesterday in his speech to the Council of Ministers as well. So I think that you should be aware of the information before making allegations to the Prime Minister of the nation.
In addition to that, one thing I must point out over here that we are taking the concept of vaccines for granted. It is not an absolute answer. Along with the vaccines, COVID appropriate behavior, containment strategy, and any readiness from the health infrastructure point is also equally as important, as pointed out by my fellow members of the government. And taking example of the state of Maharashtra itself, a casual approach is not what is needed right now. Even though we acknowledge that there is a vaccine shortage, what alternative measures can be implemented? Now, testing the effectiveness of night curfews and having weekend lockdowns is certainly one thing, but extending it to the population who are not even eligible for the vaccines, that is what our government should be focusing on right now.
I think a small point to be added here
In
that
response
if I could just, Ramdas ji, if I could just make a small point.
yeah, sure.
Thank you. I think adding on to what Mr. Piyush Goyal ji and Bhupender ji said, I think Mallikarjun, ma'am, I just like to make 2 points to your speech on the so-called Prime Minister contention first. By stating that you talk about PR tactics and all of that, but we take it as dissemination of knowledge. So somebody who's sitting in a remote village today, or somebody who's living in the parts of Maharashtra where probably the vaccine may not reach, will still realize that there is social distancing needed, or there are ways that are needed to curb, and there is a pandemic on the rise. The problem with the Spanish flu at a point of time was that people didn't know that the Spanish flu actually existed, and they didn't know that they actually got it. So I think what you term as PR tactics, we term probably as spreading information and reaching to the masses. And the second and the last point is that if you could look at the figures, when you talk about the fact that, I completely agree with Bhupendra ji to say that, behavior of people needs to change. And that is where this PR comes into play. And this is where PR raises confidence in the middle class or the lower class population, which is affected maximum by this. But coming to statistics, right? There are 10,46,631 active cases on date today, out of which there are 1,19,90,859 cases where people have recovered. There are 1,68,436 deaths that have taken place. Today, the number of active cases on a Saturday is 1,45,384, out of which 794 deaths have occurred. So when you say that the vaccine is not being administered, I think you're factually wrong also, because the numbers actually portray that people are being vaccinated. Of course, the COVID is on a rise, and of course death is involved, but we have far too many recoveries. And I think 1.8% of the population out of the entire population which is affected is facing the test of time of death probably. So when you say that people are not being vaccinated, or Maharashtra is in a poor state, or there is a lot of problems that are occurring, I feel you're factually wrong, because the numbers show separately. And the last point would be that 9.30 crore people in this country have been vaccinated within the shortest amount of time. We are world leaders. who are complimenting the Prime Minister for administering vaccine at the rate which has been administered. And as Piyush Goyal ji has made it pertinently clear that 100 million doses are on the way in the next 2 months. Something that also needs to be considered is that there will at a point of time herd immunity which will start developing amongst people, which is another practice that we're looking into. But I feel, Mallikarjun ji, it's very incorrect of you to making PR statements in the committee by stating that nothing is happening when factually it's wrong, and factually we're trying our best to administer everybody with a vaccine today.
Yeah, all right.
In
So
response
addressing
to
the point, ma'am,
statement
let me address the already points addressed by the ruling party so that I can counter it. Yeah. Now addressing the points made by Mr. Piyush Goyal, stating that the vaccine dispersal mechanisms are already set up in December. Now, sir, you need to be aware of the fact that the COVID situation in December was completely different to what it is right now, right? In December, there wasn't a second surge of case. Now, if you follow the same amount of policies and mechanisms or any sort of dispersing mechanisms you're following in December, in a current context, it won't be possible because the cases, for example, were like 10,000 in December. On a hypothetical scenario, we aren't currently 10,000. We have far by exceeded the current peak of COVID. Like for example, the COVID peak in September was lesser than what the current COVID peak right now is in April in the second wave, right? So now administrating the same amount of doses which were in December wouldn't make sense if you are in the current scenario, right? Now again with the PR thing, we are completely fine with the Tika initiative being taken by the ruling party, but my concern is that how are you going to conduct a mass vaccination drive in states like Maharashtra, where it has been pretty much made clear that there is no stock. Like 3 days ago, the vaccine centers had given out a statement that in the next 2 days the vaccine stock are going to be dispersed. Like there won't be a single vaccine stock in Maharashtra in the next 2 days, especially in Bombay, right? So, sir, let me address all the points made by you guys, and you can surely counteract. I won't interrupt you. Yeah. So how are you going to make sure that this Tika initiative of yours is going to be feasible in the first place, when a lot of states, including Orissa, Rajasthan, have provided that concerns that there is no stock in the first place. Now coming to Mr. Rakesh Sinha, when he stated there is knowledge December using these PR tactics of the Prime Minister. Yeah, granted, sir, and you are comparing with the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu occurred in 1980s, where the communication methods were very much vast different, and the communication arrays are on a broader spectrum than what they were in 1918. Come on, it's been more than 100 years. You cannot compare Spanish flu with that. Rather than increasing morale, what I think is we need to increase more effective mechanisms, and instead of politicizing the issue with regarding vaccine. Sir, the data which I'm providing with regards to the vaccine is the data given by the Health Ministry, Mr. Harshvardhan, on its Twitter handle itself. So I still have no explanation by the ruling party that why states like, sir, let me complete, sir. Why states like Rajasthan, Gujarat have gotten the same amount of vaccine doses as Maharashtra. That is my question, which still hasn't been answered by the ruling
I
party.
would like
Thank
to
you, sir.
reply to you.
You can go ahead.
You are constantly fixating on that vaccine should be provided with the proper proportion, but you also need to understand that in various states there are very strict rules regarding COVID-19 rules and regulations, and people are supposed to follow that. But in Maharashtra, most people don't even wear masks. So this shows the sheer mismanagement of Maharashtra government, and there should be more rules and regulations should be made regarding COVID-19 regulations.
Ma'am, with regards to mask, I would like to know what sort of source are you using, or what sorts of arbitrary facts are you using regarding masks? Because if you
kindly let other participants also speak, because from continuous period you people are just questioning and replying. Let's
yes, Madam Mary Kom.
So Harjeet, you're not sounding
2 minutes.
pragmatic right now.
So I'll just take a minute, please, Sitaramanji. So my question, the only thing is, I know that there is low supply of vaccine, so it has to be go in stages. But one important thing which I want to mention, that India has supplied more than 60 million doses to other countries. They have exported such an amount. Also, more than 75 countries or 75 countries exact, we have supplied vaccine. We have exported them. No other country in the world has exported such a large amount. So at one place we are saying there is vaccine shortage, and at the other place we are exporting such amount. So don't you think कि हम अपने देश के लोगों को पहले अगर सप्लाई करें, पहले अपने एज ग्रुप्स को जो हमारे अभी वल्नरेबल है या जिन्हें जरूरत है हम पहले उन्हें करें, देन एक्सपोर्ट में जाए, क्योंकि
Ma'am, here we have an international duty.
Marycom ji, you need to understand.
ज्यादा अमाउंट
In response to the vaccine nationalism that has been stated quite often, I would like to remind all the parliamentarians that we are living in the age of globalization. Especially COVID-19 has reminded us where we all
exactly.
are
So
interconnected and interrelated. So is the disease, and therefore assuring. May I go?
Can I answer?
May I continue?
I'll just
May I continue?
Could one member from the ruling party please answer, because I think there are like three or four members answering.
Yeah, I would like to say.
Yeah, again 3 or 4 members are. Could
One
someone?
important thing
Okay.
answering. As we know, this statement जान है तो जहान है. So पहले जान को संभालिए. हमारी इंडिया की population second highest है. So don't you think कि हमें पहले उनको provide करना चाहिए, और अगर provide करना है
इंडिया की पॉपुलेशन को प्रोवाइड हो रही है, इंडिया की पॉपुलेशन को तो प्रोवाइड हो रही है, वो भी इनफ नहीं पड़ रही है जो इंडिया को पॉपुलेशन को प्रोवाइड हो रही है, वो तो आप बिल्कुल ही नजरअंदाज कर रहे हो. जो थोड़ी हमने उसी के ऊपर पॉइंट ऑफ कंटेंशन घूम रहा है.
Do you mind if I complete?
That Maharashtra में people are not wearing masks. Where is this data coming from? Nobody knows. There are 29 states in India. There are so many people who are not wearing masks. This political blame game, bickering and misgovernance can lead us to the same point again and again and again. That क्योंकि लोग follow नहीं कर रहे, इसलिए हम वैक्सीन भी नहीं सप्लाई करेंगे. ये क्या सेंस बनती है? ये तो मतलब this protocol has to be put in place.
Facts or figures?
To add to that, not only
67%, 100 million.
I think
when they were planning on organizing the Kumbh Mela this month, on what basis is the center allowing Uttarakhand to organize the Kumbh Mela?
Manoj Kumar ji, let's address one particular topic which was made. Can you not raise so many questions out? Let us reply to that particular question which was raised by
Mallikarjun. One question that Mallikarjun ji has already.
Guys, can we do one thing? Like, can you do one thing? Can each member, like from the ruling party and from opposition, could each member moderate? Because I've seen that even both from ruling and opposition, like multiple people are speaking. Even when opposition is asking questions, like 3 people are asking at the same time, and even when ruling is replying, they're answering at the same time.
Okay, we let Piyush Goyal ji finish what he needs to say.
Yeah, please.
And then whoever feels like they need to add anything to that, we can go ahead.
Guys, and please, try not to give speeches. Like, it should be engaging, right? So keep it short.
Also, since we only have 10 minutes left, so let's make this a little more rapid.
Yeah, it's not a speech. It should be an engagement forum, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to.
So firstly, let me address Marycom ji's certain points which were raised. Madam, आपने अभी बोला कि 16 million doses to other countries, our country provided, and 75 countries. You must understand that our country has a better economy as compared to other countries. The 75 countries are low-income countries out there. You must understand that first. Secondly, this was in collaboration with the World Health Organization. This was the Gavi program. This was in collaboration with the World Health Organization. And this was the vaccines were developed in India with a prior notice which was given to Serum Institute of India that certain amount of vaccines which are produced in the country should be also provided to the world, because it's not an Indian effort only, correct? This was a joint collaboration by 2 nations, 3 nations. You must understand that since this is a joint collaboration, our country cannot act selfish on a certain ground where deaths are concerned. All right. Now you said that 60 million doses are being supplied to another countries. You must understand that Serum Institute of India is ready to already produce 100 million doses every month, and that already corresponds to around 5,000 to 6,000
and that is not an easy number to work on. It is a huge number.
Exactly. So
put
our
some
country
attention to it,
and also the quality of our vaccines also need to be taken into consideration.
We cannot
not only producing in mass.
We can, like
we have a standard to live up to. There is an international standard and threshold put forward by the World Health Organization.
आपको यहाँ ये समझने की भी जरूरत है कि as a country we have an international duty towards other countries as well. And as you said, 75 countries. Can you understand there are 75 countries depending on us? अगर हम सिर्फ quantity पे focus करके, like Piyush Goyal ji said, we're going to be producing hundreds and thousands of vaccines a month. अगर हम bad quality of vaccine produce कर not only to the citizens of our country, but if we supply it internationally, can you imagine the position it will put our country in?
Also,
And
Covaxin is going ahead and putting
just another
licensed thing as well.
I think we
That
need to
means that
consider that when we're talking about the dichotomy, when we're
one
talking about the
second.
dichotomy between, sorry, just 1 second. When we're talking about the
Yeah.
dichotomy between when you present the facts that we have exported certain number of vaccines, but we still have a deficiency in our country, we've had enough facts to show why that exports were necessary, including ethical, diplomatic, and foreign relations considerations that were upon us. With reference to the deficiencies that exist, we need to understand that after one point, after the onset of the pandemic, the states were given their own incumbency to take care of whatever measures they thought were necessary. So when one state ends up in a practically and like detrimentally worse condition than other states, the blame is pretty direct, and we're not trying to play a blame game over here. But when we put responsibility in a certain place and that responsibility is not fulfilled, that onus does not lie upon us. The vaccines were supplied, they were not really looked after.
And our request on an international
I
forum.
think our topic was the worsening COVID-19 condition in India and not about exports. So if we talk about the lackadaisical attitude of the state government that has singularly bogged down the entire country's effort to fight the virus, the individual state governments and their lackadaisical efforts in everything, many other states such as Karnataka, Rajasthan, Gujarat, we are talking only of Maharashtra. These states still fine, they're getting vaccines. Is vaccine the only reason that can help us bring the worsening condition of COVID-19 down in India?
Exactly, that is what
awareness is also decreasing.
you need to understand this, Dr.
And the constant effort of India
to all the parliament, to all the ma'am and sirs, you all answered that international relations बनाना जरूरी है. एक month में
हम सिर्फ relations की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं यहाँ मैम जी.
International relations की बात में नहीं. You must understand कि अगर हमारे country में deficiency है, those countries can't even produce vaccines.
Exactly, हम economically एक better state में हैं उनसे.
Could one person speak, please? Could one person speak? We're not able to comprehend any single statement.
Let's
Okay, I guess could someone who hasn't spoken already speak, please?
Could I just make one point?
Yeah, Derek
Can I complete? I'll only
Derek
take
O'Brien hasn't
30 seconds.
शिबू सोरेन जी को एक point बनाना है.
What I am saying,
He needs to
we
put a
have
point
to.
ahead.
Ma'am, please.
शिबू जी ने बिल्कुल बात
Can
नहीं की.
we
उनको
have
अपना
to
point
create-
डालने दीजिए.
We have to create a balance. We know that okay, those countries also need it, but then why we need to become a highest supplier in the world?
Because we are the highest producers, madam.
We are the highest producers.
Indirectly, our numbers will be higher. You must understand.
This is something you yourself are not being able to comprehend.
Sir, you do realize the fact that even though you're the highest producer, you have the second highest population in the whole world to vaccinate, right? So you need to consider the per capita. You need to consider how many people you have to
That is why the
vaccinate.
government has undertaken licensing schemes where not only Covaxin can produce, they have allowed other manufacturers to take the license and do it themselves. That's where India obviously is going towards.
Can I?
Constant effort on international platforms and the request to the biased Western countries to get rid of their selfish interests and help all the countries in fighting a pandemic which is common to all, a pandemic which is going to affect equally to all. We are living in an interconnected world. Our policy of isolation doesn't help, neither works, neither domestically nor internationally. This needs to be understood by the opposition members.
It's not about isolation, ma'am. It's about the ratio. It's about the ratio of vaccines
Just a second, everyone.
you are keeping and you are exporting.
That the committee is deciding.
Whether
The vaccines are being
we
sent.
also have to see that there is 130 crore population. We have to go. Definitely, we have
Yes,
to go
Mary
all
Comji,
together.
but that is
ma'am,
being
the
done,
vaccines
right?
provided to
But
us people is
the
more
citizens
than
of the
what we
country
have
also have to
exported.
come out, right?
If you Maricom ji,
That's what I am saying. Thank
Yeah.
you
Guys,
Maricom ji,
could one
if
person
you
speak, please?
if you look at the demographic figures and put together the vaccines we have provided for the country all over the country and put together the statistics of those that we have supplied, if you see the ones we have provided for our country are way higher than the ones we have supplied internationally. And you also need to see that the statistics for our country will be for one country. The ones we have supplied are for 75 countries, like you said yourself.
And to
So I don't see how they are at a match. How you
yeah,
can
and
put them on the same
and
levels.
Also,
We
I would
need to
like to
move
add.
past the export
Yes.
part that we've been
Exactly.
continuously
Question to the
discussing.
minister in
About
charge.
export of
A
vaccines, we were
certain
supposed
amount
to
is
discuss
getting
the worsening
exported,
conditions.
and that what it is matter. It doesn't matter
How
कि
is
किसकी
the
supply
export?
है.
How I would like to
यहाँ पे
ask you,
अगर हम
how is the
Please,
export
one person at a
affecting the
time.
worsening condition of COVID in India? Could you please tell me that? The
Guys,
export condition
there's only
is
1 minute left. Has someone already hasn't spoken wants to speak? Like I guess I guess there has been a cluster of 4 or 5 people who are speaking, and I think we should give chance. Yeah, people who haven't already spoken could. It's like a minute. So
Malikarjun ji, we understand. Let Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister, speak.
yeah, sure, go ahead.
I just want
Listen
to
now.
say कि जितना अभी opposition ने हमें बोला कि ग्लोबली क्यों करना है, खुद की कंट्री का देखो, ये देख लो, ठीक है, चाइना को ब्लेम करने के लिए है COVID-19 के लिए, but if we are taking an initiative to provide vaccines globally, what's the problem? We are doing something great. इतना क्या हो रहा है?
I understand the whole idea of globalization.
We are not subduing our own citizens, right?
Yeah,
I
Thank you, Nirmala ji. You must understand. We are not
Someone
subduing our
please stop
citizens
on
out
point.
here.
You are kind of subduing your own
Could
citizens
one
the
parliamentarian
moment you're
speak,
pushing
please?
the older
Yeah, could I just
generation
make a
over the
point?
younger generation. Why is the youth not being vaccinated before the
Okay.
Yeah,
the
Diplo, the
last?
time is up, I guess.
Let me.
Hello.
Guys, the speaker is speaking.
Yeah, the time is up, है ना? It was a very good discussion. Congratulations. My responsibility is to inform you that we will take the second topic now from Dr. Anand Sharma, and that is degrading condition of farmers in light of the nationwide farm protest. ठीक है? तो आनंद शर्मा है यहाँ पे कि नहीं?
No sir.
है? No?
नहीं है sir.
नहीं है तो ठीक है. Do we have Mr. प्रकाश जावड़ेकर?
No, sir, I don't think so.
चलो
No,
ठीक
sir,
है.
नहीं है.
We'll take the second topic only. कोई भी start करो. We'll take it for 30 minutes.
Farm laws. All right. I'll start. Yeah. So the major concern which I had regarding farm, it's not only farm laws basically, but it's also the other set of laws which the government has been passing arbitrarily because they have the majority in the parliament, is that the consultation with the relevant stakeholders, right? Now, for example, if you are creating a set of laws for X community, it should be that this particular community or particular profession should be consulted before that particular laws are made, right? You cannot go and consult with that particular community after you have passed the law. That is when the problems arise, and that's what the opposition thinks happened with the current set of farm laws, right? The various farmer groups weren't consulted, especially the ones in the north weren't consulted, and which led to the outrage of the farmers and also the opposition members, because obviously you are making a laws for a particular community, and that particular community or particular set of profession does not agree with that set of laws, and I don't see what the feasibility or the implementation of the set of laws is. And the narrative and the government coming up with a narrative that we know better than what you are doesn't make sense, because you aren't farmers. The farmers aren't finding the laws. I don't know what set of consultations and set of checks and balances process have been followed before passing the laws. Yeah, I guess Piyush would.
Let's consult your problem step by step. JP Nadda ji, can I oh wait, let JP Nadda ji continue. I'll speak after him.
Thank you for that. I would like to answer your thing in mainly 2 points. Your main contention is about paternalistic legislation, where the government would say that they know better than the people who are being affected. This is basic libertarian principle, and the same could be said, why are you asking me to wear seatbelt when I can wear seatbelt by myself? Why are you asking me to wear a motor helmet when I can wear it myself? It is a very common state principle that in some cases the state knows better than the individual, because collective good comes over individual, but this is basic libertarian principles. So when we talk about this in the context of when the state would like to look out for the welfare of the collective over individuals, I would like to come to the questions of the individuals who are contending this act in the first place. Why is it that maximum protests and outrage only happen from sources and from funds that we don't know about? Why did there come out an outrage from, why was there a sudden abruption of outrage from sources that we don't know about? And when we talk about farmers who are protesting this farm laws, you often go to protests, you look at interviews of the farmers at those protests, and they're not clear with the details themselves. There are very tangible proof for why this is propaganda, and the farm laws bills are being taken under the guise of some other anti-state or anti-government forces.
Sir, I think that is the. I think, ma'am, that is the whole. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Malikarjun ji, now listen. In your speech, you made certain points. You said that there's a certain loss of a community out here, and the government government has not consulted anyone regarding this particular issue. And you must understand that we are talking as a country as a whole out here. The particular community which does not agree is a community which does not pay the taxes for whatever is sold. So for that, for proper registration of the GST and proper tax collection, these particular laws were sent. You must also understand that this particular farm bill was also proposed by the UPA government when it was in power. So on the similar aspects, if our government is raising the same issue again, so how can your state of mind change all of a sudden in the last 4 years? So basically, you mean to say that the certain points which were made by your party, by collective decision of your party,
exactly,
are being countered now. So what was the sudden change? Now, could you please tell me the change in aspect? What led to this, sir? Like, if you were
Isn't it just like opposition hypocrisy?
All right, yeah. So addressing the point, which JP Nadda made, that certain anti-national elements. Now, why is it that every time a particular aspect of issue has been brought by the opposition party or any sort of protest has been made, the question of anti-national elements infiltrating into these particular set of protests have been made? Now look at CA, look at CAB. The narrative of anti-national elements seeping into that was also made, and the Khalistani element was also made in the set of farm laws also. So why is that? You can look at the Disha Ravi case also. Why is that every time the opposition or the protesters have any sort of concern with regards to the government passing any certain set of law? Sir, let me complete, sir. I didn't interrupt any members. Then let me complete all the points. Then you can surely counter it, right? Why is that every time a particular sect or a particular community or a particular protesters come into play, or when any sort of opposition parties give their concerns, why is that the narrative of anti-national force, anti-national elements seeping into these particular protests are brought in? And ma'am, you said that there are videos of people don't know what they're actually protesting for and the ambiguous. Then you can look at also people where the BJP members, or there were for CA protests and for farm bill protests also. I don't know what for protests are, but still people don't actually know. There are elements of both. There are for and against elements on both the sides. You cannot consider using hand-picked people that they don't know what they are doing, right? So firstly, the question, the narrative. Let me complete. I don't know why.
Just a second. Let Mallikarjun ji complete.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why we aren't interrupting? Let
JP
us
Nadda
complete.
ji, you can answer to the question
Yeah, exactly.
concerns he had.
And sir, with regards to Piyush Goyal, sir, this was the farm bill wasn't firstly passed with the question of tax paying bills or something. It was a whole array of issues which you guys tried to address and which you could not address eventually, which had to be scrapped in the first place, right? And the second part is that why UPA proposed it, sir. The only thing that we had proposed it, the proposal did not go before passaging. If we had passed it, we would have done it after consulting with the relevant stakeholders. That is the difference between the UPA and the NDA parties, right? The NDA just arbitrarily passes laws without consulting. We propose it, we talk with the relevant stakeholders, and then pass it. Sir, just passing laws and flexing on it isn't the matter of fact. The feasibility and the implementation of the bill is also matter in context, right? Passing a bill and the implementation on ground level is go ahead.
Bhupendra Yadav ji,
थैंक यू। टाइम आ गया है हमें इस चीज पे डिस्कस करने का कि ये जो मिसकंसेप्शन है कि स्टेक होल्डर एंगेजमेंट लिया ही नहीं है, स्टेक होल्डर का हमने कुछ सुना ही नहीं है। द मिसकंसेप्शन दैट द एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस मार्केट कमिटीज विल बी abolished is absolutely false. Our legal framework provides a 3-step mechanism. Firstly, it takes the feedback of the farmers. Secondly, it also has an active redress mechanism, grievance redressal mechanism. So to make the blanket statement saying that beneficiaries or whoever the committee stakeholders are going to be absolutely abolished, it is not to be read disjunctively. It is to be read in consonance with the already existing committee guidelines as well. That is my point.
I would like to say something. Only 2 minutes Rakesh Sinha ji ko bol lene dijiye aap.
I just want to answer Mallikarjun.
It is a myth that there is no. You said that it's a myth that there is no consultation.
Rakesh Sinha ji was in the middle. Rakesh Sinha ji was in the middle of saying something.
Thank you, Rupa ji. I just need to make 3 points. Number one, why we bring in, so first of all, there were consultations held. In fact, the meeting where the Chief Minister of Punjab, Sri Amrinder Singh, had held consultations for the bills before these bills were even passed. Point number two, which is very important, after the bills have been passed, there was first a meeting of the farmers with the Honorable Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, where an agreement could not be reached on. There was also a Supreme Court committee that was appointed to look into the bills, where the farmers were told that we will give you 3 years. We will not implement the bills right now. There will be a period of 3 years that will be given for you to try and fix and work towards the efficient functioning of the bill. And number three, more importantly, it was also said, when you talk about Mallikarjunji, you talk about you'd say the entire community. We are doing this for the entire community. When you look at farmers as a whole, we are doing this so that middlemen, marketmen who are there, who take away their profits, are not do not indulge in this, and that is why we produce an open market. When your party talks about globalization, when you harp about globalization all around, this is what globalization stands for, where we open the market. And lastly, and I'll conclude with this, why we talk about anti-nationalist sentiment, or why we utter even anti-nationals, is because when the farm laws were not passed, or when something did not occur in a particular way, the national flag was pulled down from the Red Fort, and that is goddamn violation of nationalism, and that is goddamn violation of pulling the flag down of India and hoisting a Khalistani flag. Which is why, if that is not anti-nationalist sentiment, I don't know what is. And lastly, we have, as Bhupendra Singh Yadav said, and Piyush Goyal and JP Nada have pointed out, we have held reviews. We are opening to a better market. We are producing an open market. And anti-nationalists, because the actions have been like that, even after the bills have been passed, it has gone to the Supreme Court time and again. It has been led to parliamentary committees. And if farmers are going through everything, even after, if there's a worsening situation, it is because they don't want to budge on even a single point. And that is not what a democratic discussion sound. That is not.
Excuse me, can I please make a point?
Just a second. Manoj Kumar ji was in the middle of something when I told him that Rakesh Sinha ji wanted to complete. Yes. Just before you start, a second. Mallikarjun ji, are all your questions answered?
I have a set of questions, but it's fine. I think the others should get chance before. Like I have been speaking since a long time.
I wish to make a point that there are.
Let Manoj Kumar ji complete, and then Ramdas ji aap bol lijiye.
Yeah, guys, can you know what? Can you guys like raise hands instead of just speaking out of turn?
Mallikarjun, we can do that, but
Yeah,
then the
exactly.
audio
Thank
should be
you.
heard.
Firstly, Mr. Piyush Goyal, thank you. Firstly, I would like to say that it's been stated continuously that it's a myth that there has been no consultation process. But when RTI has been filed with the government asking with whom consultations have been held, which meetings, which seminars were held for consultation, the government has simply responded that there's no data available regarding these seminars, regarding the consultation process held. So I would like to clarify with the government, if they could provide us with the data with whom they held consultations, it would be much greater. Secondly, according to the policy formed by this government in the end of 2014, the legislative consultation policy, the government is supposed to open the bill for constructive criticism to the public at least for 90 days according to its own policy, but that was also not done in regard to any of the bills that were passed in parliament along with the farm bills. Thirdly, I think Mr. Manoj, so I forgot to speak for me, but they stated that it was the protest was anti-national because the Indian flag was pulled down, but that is absolutely false. The Indian flag was never pulled down. The Nishan Sahib, which is a spiritual flag, was hoisted along with the Indian flag, but the Indian flag was not pulled down. Stating that the farmers are anti-national by spewing lies in national parliament is absolutely bad on your part, sir. I'm sorry. You should not be spreading such propaganda in our parliament.
I would like to say something. Lastly, the farmers
to address this question of consultation, that the Indian government has undertaken consultations at several levels. Yes.
Ramdas let Harshvardhan ji speak first because she had raised her hand. Then after that, I think she speak. Because even I have certain points to counter to Manoj Kumar ji as well as Mallikarjun ji left.
People are asking many questions, so I would also like to ask one question. That the farm bills were produced for all of the farmers in India, and farming is an activity which is So why is this the case that only farmers from Punjab and leaders like Tiket are having a problem with this and they are protesting? Secondly, people are saying that government ने कोई consultation नहीं की, किसी से भी कोई बातचीत नहीं की. 26 जनवरी को भी जब इन लोगों को अपना प्रोटेस्ट निकालना था, उस टाइम पे भी इन लोगों को बोला गया था कि they would peacefully protest, but मतलब नहीं मानी उन्होंने बात, और फिर 26 जनवरी पे सबने देख ही लिया था कि क्या हुआ, और कि फ्लैग नहीं नीचे किया. So the point that people are attacking, like इतना मतलब वायलेंस क्रिएट कर रहे हैं वो पार्लियामेंट पे, राष्ट्रपति भवन पे, यही एक एंटी नेशनल का सिंबल है. सिर्फ वो फ्लैग को नीचे कर देने से कोई एंटी नेशनल या नेशनल नहीं होता है. एक रिस्पेक्ट होनी चाहिए राष्ट्रपति भवन की, जो कि नहीं थी वहां पे.
Correct. Now,
sir, could one person from opposition and one person from ruling speak? I think Sharad Pawar wanted to speak, and Sharad Pawar hasn't spoken from the last session.
गहलोत जी को कुछ बोलना था.
Let Ramdas ji speak first, because
हाँ जी, रामदास जी आप
all right, then Ramdas speak. After that, let Sharad Pawar speak. Yeah, go ahead, Ramdas.
Yeah.
Then I'll have to read.
The point of consultation, the central government has undertaken consultation by various different forms. Firstly, we offered for them to engage with us, to speak to us, which wasn't undertaken. Secondly, we appointed a committee via Supreme Court. And lastly, we did say that we will bring the law into implementation for 1.5 years. The farmers community did not respond adequately. Secondly, the agrarian reforms. I don't understand why there is so much opposition to the agrarian reforms. The Indian agriculture sector has to witness certain changes with the given passage of time. We have made the agriculture sector highly redundant by following the same procedures. So we wish to reform it by removing the middlemen from the entire give and take transaction between the farmers concerned and the purchasers. So I don't understand what's the issue with abolition of mandi system. Lastly, the protest constitutes farmers from a particular community, from a particular class, and we know which class is it. We don't have an all India representation with respect to farmers' protest. Thus, I would say the farmers who are representing their grievances are rich farmers who also constitute a part of the mandi system and therefore don't wish to for these reforms to be implemented and executed. Thank you.
All right. Sharad Pawar.
Can I please, make a point?
Guys. Can Sharad Pawar
आप
already
शरद
spoken
पवार
after
जी
Ramdas?
को बोलने दे दीजिए.
शरद पवार को बोलने दो, फिर
आप बोल दीजिए.
I want to say something in addition to what Malika Kharge said in reply to Piyush Goyal, that we had just proposed the bill, and Congress manifesto never promoted the idea of abolition of MSP, and the Congress manifesto never contained any clause which would open a window of price exploitation by private entities. And lastly, why did the government cut off the water supply from farmer protests, considering right to access to clean and safe water supply comes under Article 21 of Constitution?
Sharad Pawar ji, now
when farmers are protesting peacefully around in the country.
I would like to say a majority of
Rupa ji, 1 second, wait.
Yeah,
Dr. Ami Ajnik ji also wanted to speak, so let her speak as a hand raise as well.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Piyush Goyal. First of all, when you're talking about the mandi system being abolished in the first place, it is a system which has been in place for thousands of years. And now suddenly you bring in a regulation, completely take it off, and then you say rich farmers are protesting. There are farmers sitting on the roads. There are farmers which have tents there who don't have proper food supply. And you're saying rich farmers are protesting. What kind of propaganda is this? I would like you to answer as to where you've got this data from, that rich farmers are protesting and mandi system abolishment is a very nice idea to do.
Dr. Ami Yajnik ji, I will now address your particular issue because you raised it first. You said that mandi system has been going for thousands of years, correct? So man was living in caves for thousands of years. So why did we
migrate? Yes.
Why did he evolve? Why did he develop?
Transition from caves to houses was a slow transition.
Let me complete.
It was not a law regulated by the government.
Ma'am, let me complete once. Please, ma'am. So, ma'am, you must firstly understand that development is a procedure. We are evolving. Human beings are evolving, correct? Now we are tackling the mandi system for a basic understanding because they are not paying taxes. The tax money is being used for the development of the country, for the evolution of mankind. You must understand that if the country doesn't get taxes, if it doesn't get the required funds, our debts would increase. Our country would not develop. You want our country to go back 10 years, 15 years down the line just because of the COVID-19 pandemic, our GDP has dropped by a major percent. We understand that our GDP is higher as compared to United Kingdom currently. However, the second wave of coronavirus has surely shown its signs, and we can surely see that our GDP has dropped, is about to drop again. So obviously we do not have the funds. Now addressing Manoj Kumar Jhaji's concerns, you said that raising another flag along with the Indian flag was not anti-national, and there was peace by the farmers. But you must understand, it was those farmers who attacked the police constables. It was those farmers who pushed the police constables inside the canal which was running alongside the Red Fort. It was those farmers who showed signs of violence in Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh against the police constables, where the police was helpless to attack them because they had orders from the center that they were not allowed to harm them. Now,
sir, with regards to
can I please make a point now? Can I please make a point?
Priyanka Chaturvedi,
with regards to the police narrative, with regards to a lot of narratives which have been in play.
Can a member of opposition please go ahead and answer?
Yes, can I please
Priyanka Chaturvedi
make
a point.
Right.
Can we let Piyush Goyal finish? I don't think he
now
was
neutral
done.
members should be given the chance once again.
But I
Yeah,
don't
all
think
right,
he was done.
Maricom, please go ahead. Please go ahead, Maricom.
Excuse me,
एक second.
Please let people finish first.
एक second.
Guys, can we do one thing? Instead of raising hands, can we just put the names in the chat box so that we know what
30 seconds, then you people can again continue because I'm a new
Priyanka ji was in the process of saying something.
Time of the committee right now.
Actually, Piyush Goyal wasn't done speaking. Everyone interrupted him.
I know, but Priyanka ji was in the middle of saying something. Just let her make her point. She has not spoken since the first half.
Piyush sir, if you finish your speech, then I can continue right after you.
All right, fair enough. So, wait. Mallikarjun ji in his speech had said that we are considering anti-national cases out here. We are not. This is not Disha Ravi case or the Khalistan issue and the CA NRC. But you must understand that these were certain committees. There were anti-national elements in the protests who resorted to violence against the police, who resorted to violence and showed that they would not resort to peaceful measures out here. Now talking about, now you said that certain BJP elements did not know about the certain farm bills or even CNRC as a whole, but they were not the people who were standing on the streets and protesting, right? It was the people who were protesting against the law despite being unaware of it. Look, there is something about not knowing something and then staying away from it. But these people don't know anything and they are yet protesting. What does your government have to say about that?
When you're saying that these people don't know, what are you doing to inform them about it? When you're saying these people
exactly.
Don't know that
Madam, there are news channels, madam, there are TV channels, there is newspaper, there is social media websites.
Madam, the problem is who is misleading them.
My
question is who is misleading them.
The neutral member should speak, so I'm speaking now. Thank you. So one important point which I want to mention that opposition कह रहा है कि farmers protest कर रहे हैं, ruling party कह रही है कि farmers के जो welfare पर्सपेक्टिव से ही वो बिल फ्रेम किया है, तो अगर वो फार्मर्स के वेलफेयर पर्सपेक्टिव से तो प्रोटेस्ट क्यों हो रहा है? ठीक है, तो इस चीज में हमें वी शुड अंडरस्टैंड कि एक कोई ना कोई मीडिएटर है जो कि एंटी नेशनलिस्ट है, जो कि फार्मर्स को भड़का रहा है, क्योंकि अभी तक ये क्लियर नहीं है कि वो जो नेशनल फ्लैग था वो फार्मर ही था जिसने नेशनल फ्लैग को डिसरिस्पेक्ट किया है, जो पार्लियामेंट्री ऑफिस के सामने डिसरिस्पेक्टफुल कर रहा है, क्या वो फार्मर ही था या फिर सिर्फ कुछ ही स्टेट जैसे पंजाब या फिर जो यूपी हो गया या जो नॉर्थ इंडियन के स्टेट्स हैं उन कुछ ही स्टेट से एक्सेसिव प्रोटेस्ट आ रहा है? तो ये क्वेश्चंस को डील करने के लिए अगर हम ऑपोजिशन को ब्लेम करने की बजाय हम ये देखें कि जो एंटी नेशनल से जो बीच में है, जो कि दोनों ही साइड्स को भड़का रहे हैं, हम उनको क्यों नहीं कर्ब करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? Why we are not going with them?
Okay, I would like to.
Thing is, opposition is supporting them.
Priyanka,
Sir, Piyush
Priyanka,
Goyal,
you were supposed to speak
हाँ,
right
फिर
after Piyush ji. Let her.
पार्टी पॉलिटिक्स खेलने के चक्कर में बीजेपी ऑपोजिशन को ऑपोजिशन बीजेपी को ब्लेम करने के चक्कर में
We
understood. We got your point, ma'am.
We got your point. We got your point.
We got your point.
Priyanka ji, go
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. So over the past few minutes, a lot of points have been raised with regards to taking in a lot of input from stakeholders. All right. We have Bhupendra Yadav ji also talked about grievance redressal mechanism. And we are sort of trying to discredit the purpose of entire protests by stating that these bills are solely for the welfare of the farmers. Now, I'd like to raise certain concerns which are extremely legit. For example, Section 8 of this particular farm laws, right? It states that in case there's any dispute arising between the farmers and the trader, which in this case is big corporations, because we have apparently completely removed the middlemen for removing malpractices for whatsoever purpose the government has included this provision, right? In case there is any dispute arising, the dispute would be solved by a committee which is elected by a subdivisional magistrate. Now, let us understand this. A subdivisional magistrate appoints 2 to 3 persons, which will also be a part of the executive or under his discretion totally, wherein there is no provision for having farmers on the panel to decide issues which the farmers are facing. So when you're talking about inclusion of stakeholders, when you're talking about their welfare, where in the case where this completely under executive, where the bulwark is completely bureaucratic, and how can you ensure justice in such cases where farmers raise their genuine concerns? Because most likely when the system is so bureaucratic, it would go on in the favor of big corporations. What are poor farmers supposed to do in such a case? That is one concern. Please answer.
Yeah, I would
let Rakesh.
Sir, my hand have been raised since a long time. I've been trying to speak after me.
Mallikarjun ji, please continue. I'm so sorry.
All right. Yeah. So the other issue which I had to address was the price assurance fixation, right? Now, so apparently the particular bill assures that a price will be fixed, but the question here arises the ambiguity of that, right? What sort of mechanisms is the government assuring for the price assurance? Because the question here the farmers have is that the corporates, the big corporates like the Reliance or the Adani or someone, they may just misuse inflation or any sort of fixation in the price to buy large scale farm goods at a small amount of price without any fixation or without any intervention from the government, right? Because these price fixation bills are the only thing which allows the farmers to get relevant amount of money if there is a lot of stock in the market. So that is a price fixation bill, right? So the price fixation assurance is currently not present in the government, and the second is the MSP one. The MSP one is also still considered because the government has obviously given assurance that MSP would be there. But the question is the price assurance of a particular thing, and also deregulation of food items. So how is the government going to tackle these two with specific reference to
Rakesh
price
Sinha
assurance?
Get back to Mallikarjun ji this time.
Perfect.
We'll
Only 3 minutes are left right now, so someone
Yeah, so
who has
just
not spoken.
I would like to add something. I have had my hand raised for a pretty long time.
Manoj.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Firstly, I would like to say that one of the parliamentarians also raised this point. One of the parliamentarians also raised this point कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने दिल्ली पुलिस को ऑर्डर देके जो डीएमसी से पानी आ रहा था फार्मर्स प्रोटेस्ट पे वो बंद करवा दिया है। वहां पर जो टॉयलेट बने हुए हैं वो दिल्ली पुलिस तोड़ रही है ताकि फार्मर्स यूज ना कर पाए। हमारे जो जेल में लोग रहते हैं, हमारे कैदी रहते हैं, उनको हमारे फार्मर से ज्यादा अच्छा ट्रीटमेंट मिलता है। उनको टैक्स पर के मनी पे 2 टाइम का खाना, पानी और रहने की फैसिलिटी मिलती है। मगर हमारे जो फार्मर्स अपनी हित की लड़ाई बैठ के बॉर्डर पे दिल्ली के बॉर्डर पे बैठे हैं, उनको कैदियों से ट्रीटमेंट दिया जा रहा है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से। आपको वायलेंस की बात करने की बहुत फार्मर जो वायलेंस कर रहे हैं उसका बात करने का बहुत शौक चढ़ा है, मगर आप जो कर रहे हैं आपको दिख नहीं रहा है। दिल्ली पुलिस ने उधर कांटे लगवाए हैं, उधर कंस्ट्रक्शन परमानेंट कंस्ट्रक्शन की है, बैरियर्स फार्मर्स क्रॉस न कर पाए, उनको उनके ऊपर जो लाठीचार्ज हुए थे पहले उनको वो किसी ने एड्रेस नहीं
किया। क्या आप ये समझ रहे हैं कि फॉर द दिल्ली पुलिस टू गो टू दैट एक्सटेंट, द फार्मर्स हैड उनको कितना पुश किया गया था कि दिल्ली पुलिस को ऐसे मेजर्स लेने पड़े।
कि फार्मर्स ने क्या किया, आप बस बोल रहे हो गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया। मनोज कुमार जी, आप जेल की कैदियों से
बाद से अब तक central government, despite farmers requesting, central government is denied holding any denied talking to the farmers.
You need to understand, you need to understand, Manoj Kumar ji, under the current circumstances, it is not easy to meet with a number of people at the same time, because you need to realize that we are also facing a global pandemic right now in midst of this protest.
Thank you,
Exactly.
Ma'am.
Someone has asked question.
Harshvardhan ji and Bhupendra ji have provided enough of facts that we did hold consultations with a number of farmers.
You haven't. You haven't.
We did. We have.
Guys, could one person speak, please? Could one person speak?
Manoj sir, to answer your questions and to counter your. Mary ma'am, just 1 second.
Madam, just a minute.
यार एक पार्लियामेंटेरियन बोल लो यार, टाइम हो गया है।
उसका जवाब दीजिए, फिर क्वेश्चन पूछिए और उसका जवाब दीजिए। जो मैंने क्वेश्चन
मैरीकॉम टाइम इज अप ma'am, I guess time is up, it's already 1
तो मतलब that's what I wanted to say.
But we can't end on the note of misinformation.
Parliamentarians, the chairman.
Ma'am, time is up, ma'am.
Chairman is speaking, everyone.
एक मिनट देखो, इट्स लंच, तो 1 से 2 प्लीज ब्रेक फॉर लंच एंड वील रिकन्वीन एट 2, ठीक है? बस मुझे इतना ही बोलना है, बाकी इफ यू वांट टू कंटिन्यू।
Alright, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
ठीक है, मैं तो लंच के लिए जा रहा हूँ। नो, आई वुड इंसिस्ट इवन यू नो लीव फॉर लंच एंड वील रिकन्वीन एट 2. थैंक यू.
Thank you, sir.
Just to not end this on a very misinformed note, let's just clarify a few things.
Yeah, I think we can get
stripping back all the passion. Let's strip back all the passion and get to the facts right now. I completely agree when sir said that there needs to be MSP pay. If the government is promising, why not write it down? So MSP has been throughout an administrative decision. From the status quo is still the same. MSP right now is nowhere codified in a way where every farm law would have a particular MSP, because it is a state governed thing. Therefore, putting it down in a centric law would not be very feasible.
And if we fix a particular price for MSP,
administrative decision.
Bhupendra ji, 1 second. Just let me add to your particular point on MSP. Since you talked about MSP out here, if we fix a particular issue and if there's a case of inflation which comes in the future, then obviously the farmers will earn less as compared to what they are actually deserving. Correct? So
MSP is minimum support price, maximum thodi hai. It's a lower limit, it's not an upper limit.
But if you're fixing the minimum support price, then for each food grain, it is subjective for each state, it is subjective for each region.
Exactly.
So making MSP codified is only going to harm the farmers.
There's a reason agricultural is a state subject, because it's subject, as you said, it's subjective for every region. What is the need for the central government to come and regulate a state subject in the first place?
Manoj Kumar ji, you must understand.
To establish a standard.
Can we just go and have lunch? I mean, there is no point of doing this right now. This will go on for an hour. This will go on for an hour.
Okay, guys, actually, I think it's better to actually direct how we would want to go about the surrogacy bill.
Exactly.
Does anyone have any?
Let's go have lunch. Come back 15 minutes before. So 1:45, everyone come back. We will discuss short-term notices and whatever topics we need to
leave
talk
the
about.
meeting or just
just keep your camera and camera off.
Perfect.
Yeah, that is it.
Okay,
so let's
we'll all
please
come
come
back
back
at
at 1:45. If anyone comes before that, also please try to engage with committee. Let's get points done.
Yeah.